Everyone, my name is Paula Feakes and I'm the Director of Marketing at the Parents Estate Planning Law Firm. Normally we reserve Wednesdays for David to come on with his pep talk, where he usually talks about something legal related. But today we're putting the legal discussion aside to talk about something that I know is on every parent's mind right now. And that is how to juggle the working from home, the family, the educating from home, and life in general. So thank you for joining us today. I think this will be a great discussion. With me is Amanda Hemm. Amanda is co-founder of Soutiens. Soutiens is a firm that she started in 2018, and they support companies with expectant and working parents. Amanda herself is a mom, a doula, and a veteran of the corporate world. She's seen firsthand and experienced, I believe, the challenges that working parents face. I think she also recognizes, though, that parenting improves job performance, and I think working can improve parenting. I've been there myself. You know, I can remember when my older daughter was a baby and I worked from home part-time. It certainly was not easy. I loved it. I think the difference, I know the difference back then was that, first of all, she wasn't of school age, so I wasn't having to educate her. And we also weren't in the midst of a pandemic. So it was a little easier. But now during COVID-19, the stress level and the anxiety level for parents is at an all-time high. And I know that everybody has questions as we head into the uncertainty of fall and what that may look like. So I thought, Amanda, it would be great to talk to you and get some guidance maybe from you and some tips and tricks about how to sort of navigate these next few months. So welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. As you can imagine, this is something that I've been talking about a lot lately. It's certainly on everyone's mind.
Yes. So let's just go through some questions that I have and that I'm sure the parents listening have. What are the top challenges you're hearing from parents right now?
You know, as you alluded to, there's so many different ages and stages. So the challenges of a newborn are differently than the parents who have school age kids or high schoolers. But I think for everybody, the biggest challenge is just the unknown right now. In May, we were thinking like, okay, we've got a few more weeks of this, or especially March, right? Only 2 weeks of school closures and then we're good to go. And now here we are, and we don't know if we're planning for the next 2 months or the next 2 years of living in this environment. So when you have that kind of uncertainty, it makes planning really hard. But the number one thing that's hard about that is scheduling. And with all of these unknowns, especially with schools and with childcare, is how can you be in two places at once? How can you be doing your job and how can you be parenting? And oftentimes, for those of us that are fortunate, we're in the same spot. Fortunate might be a funny word for that too, right? Because it is hard to parent and work at the same time. But there's also challenges of finding childcare. Do you trust that center? Are you okay exposing your kids to other people outside of your bubble? How do you find a nanny? Is your childcare going to stay open? Is my child safe? And a lot of those questions are now echoed in the school system as well. Or if my child's only going to school on Mondays and Tuesdays from 8 to noon, what do I do for the rest of the week? How does that work out? So those are definitely the top challenges that people are having right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because our firm has young parents, and I see these challenges with them too. They have no idea what's going to happen with their school-age children, and we run the gamut from people who have kids in daycare to I think our oldest one is in 6th or 7th grade, and nobody knows.
Right.
So what steps can parents take to feel like they have some control over all of this?
I think that's a big piece of it, is finding those little pieces that you do have control over. And one small thing is celebrating those wins. So when you do have a good day, when something goes well, take a moment and recognize it, because we don't often enough, and we get caught up in the what ifs and the worries and the struggles. And so take a moment and watch those wins. But I think stepping back, kind of bigger picture of what parents should do, is really have a good hard look in the mirror with yourself and with your partner and figure out what are your priorities. And that's going to be different for everybody. We say often, everyone's in the same storm, but different boats. So you need to define what your boat is, what are your priorities for your family, and then how can you move forward with that? Oftentimes I feel like parents try to move forward with what somebody else thinks is the right thing. They're looking for the answers. We go on Facebook groups and ask. We ask our pediatricians. We ask our teachers. But really, it's a very personal decision. So whether that is making childcare work and finding an in-home situation, finding a center that you're comfortable with, or if it's deciding that you need to take a step back from work for a little bit and doing that, whatever your decision is, just own it, right? Take it and feel comfortable with it. And then once you're feeling comfortable with that, you're able to model that resiliency and that flexibility and that confidence for your kids. Because the big thing that I'm seeing is that kids take their cues from their parents, right? I'm sure that
Absolutely, yeah.
all of us as parents are seeing that when we're having a bad day, they have a bad day. So any way that we can control what our intentions are and then communicate that to the kids with confidence and reframing the situation, the better it's going to be for everybody. I know that just for myself, as an example, when we started talking with the kids about a hybrid school system, we really played up the idea of smaller classes and getting to know your teachers more. And my kids are so excited about the potential of having only 10 kids in the classroom. That it's great. So they're not feeling that stress as much.
Yeah. Look at the positives, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so true. It affects every stage because, as you know, our children are older, and we have my daughter Sadie is heading off to her second year of college next year, and she is so excited. And I, of course, have my own level of anxiety around the safety at college, and are these kids going to be responsible and do what they're supposed to be doing? But I'm really trying to keep that to myself and be excited for her, because I don't want her to get to Virginia and be a wreck about everything. I want her to have as much normalcy in her life as she can. So I think your point about, owning what your priorities are and what your decisions are and sticking to that and just being confident in what you've decided is perfect. Really.
And you can adjust, right? We're all flexible humans. So if you make a decision and you decide after a month this isn't right for us, then you reevaluate and you adjust. Nothing is fixed in stone.
Absolutely. Everybody's adjusting. Yeah, everybody. She may be home in 3 weeks. Who knows?
Who knows?
So, once you've selected your priorities and once as a family you figured out what your priorities are, then there is that piece of the employer. And how do you navigate that? How do you talk to your employer? What suggestions do you have for people as they approach their employer with their decisions?
Yeah, and that's a tough one. I think a lot of us are not accustomed to having hard conversations with our employers. A lot of times, it's a little bit fluffier. Maybe it's asking for vacation. I know that I was reminiscing about like even snow days and going, oh, how do I handle this with my employer? I've got this deadline. I've got my kids at home. And that was just one day. Here we are. I don't know. Are we on day 100 or 1,000? Who knows? But, right. We're moving forward. So it's really all about that communication and getting used to having those tougher conversations and over communicating constantly. So when you're talking with your employer, you really want to try to look for the win-win situations. And to do that, you need to understand what your priorities are and what your needs are. You know, maybe you have hard deadlines because of the time you have to pick up your kids, or maybe you and your partner are working out mornings versus afternoons of who's going to be on primary kid duty. So know what your needs are, and then ask your supervisor or your employer, what are their needs? What are the things that they have as a non-negotiable for you? And then try to look at what the balance is and how can you create a win-win situation where you can say, I hear what you need, this is what I need, and here's a way that we can both create that. And like I started with, just over communicate that. So make a plan, be in touch with your supervisors, what's working, what's not working, what needs to be modified. Make it a two-way conversation so that you're not just telling what you're wanting to do, but also ask them how it's working from their perspective. And sometimes we tend to think that the manager should be initiating that conversation, but I think in this case, whoever can initiate it and just keep that communication line open is my number one piece of advice for that.
I think that's perfect advice. You know, as an employer, David and I, we have an amazing team, and I think we've been very good at keeping our lines of communication open, and our employers feel really comfortable, our employees feel really comfortable speaking with us. But I do think it's constant. You have to be constantly communicating because everybody's situation is changing almost on a daily basis these days. And so yeah, you really have to just constantly be communicating.
And the businesses are changing as far as what's important to the business as companies are trying to adapt to the economy and the environment as well.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of uncertainty for the business owners too. So
right.
It's tough for everyone, right? And how about what should we avoid as parents? What should we stay away from? What should we not do?
I think the biggest thing that I could say is to stay away from judging each other, right? We tend to, especially I see on social media, a lot of people criticizing one person's decision or another person's decision. And this isn't the time that we want to be doing that. We want to be supporting and lifting each other up. A lot of times that judgment, I think, comes from a place of insecurity and not being so sure about their decision. So I would just say avoid that. And then going kind of the opposite of what I had said earlier, like avoid scaring, like falling into the scare tactics, listen to the news when you need to, but if you find that you're getting overly consumed or you're finding things that are not healthy, just avoid that. Go for a walk with your dog, get some sunshine, and kind of reset yourself.
So true. There's so many things we can be doing other than being on Facebook right now, in my honest opinion.
Yes.
Does anybody, are there any questions? So a question from Tom: how do we gauge if our kids' behavior is age appropriate or if it's anger, depression, anxiety with the new normal?
Oof. I can tell you that I cannot speak as an expert on that. I can tell you as a parent that that is definitely something I'm struggling with as well. I have a 12-year-old, a preteen, who I'm seeing your second question too, that kind of goes along with that of the overparenting. And the number of times that she has come to me and said, Mom, I am just so peopled out. You're the only person I've seen in 5 months. Can you just go away? I struggle with that too, of do I pull her out of her room? Do I let her stay in? How much do I respect her boundaries? How much do I pull her out? And I think that is one of those things that if you have concerns about, that's a great place to start talking to a doctor. Go talk to your school counselor, especially the adjustment counselors at the school are dealing with this and are ready to help. And we forget about them because A, it's summer, and B, we're not actually in the school buildings, but they have some great resources.
Yes, agreed. Thank you, Tom. Questions for either Amanda or myself? We're happy to hang out and answer any questions. Amanda, while we're waiting to see if anybody does have further questions, I know you have an event coming up at the end of the month, which is next week.
Right.
It's amazing how quickly time is going by during all of this. But why don't you share a little bit about that with us?
Sure. So as you said at the beginning, Soutiens works with companies that are wanting to be more parent inclusive. And what we're finding right now is that this pandemic has really highlighted all of the issues that working parents have had for years, and has just magnified them. So we've created a 3-day summit where we're employers, so human resources, benefits, parent leaders, advocates of working parents are coming together, and we're talking about how can organizations embrace the change that's happening right now in such a way that they can move forward and better support working parents. And so we're talking head on about how do you change organizations? How do you look at childcare benefits in a different way? How can you address flexibility in ways that are new and unique to your organization? And then how do you look at the health and well-being of all of your employees, not just the parents, especially mental health during this time frame? So we've got about 30 speakers over 3 days, and I am so excited for it. It's going to be amazing.
It sounds wonderful, really. You know, I think there are positives that are going to come from this, and I think that change is needed, and that sounds fabulous, really. So I think Megan's going to put the link for your website on the chat box. So if anybody would like further information on that or to register, you can head over there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like we have any further questions. So Amanda, I really want to thank you for joining us. I hope people found this to be helpful and useful information. I'm sure they did. If you'd like more information from Amanda, you can head over to their website, www.soutiens.us, or you can give them a call at 617-312-7359. If you've been thinking about getting started with your estate planning and you'd like further information from our firm, you can head over to our website, and that's www.parentsesstateplanning.com, or you can give Lori a call at 978-263-6900. So I'll leave you with this. I'm sure everybody remembers a long time ago, we started saying that phrase, keep calm and carry on. And I think that those are words that we can all put into practice right now. And just remember to take a breath. And as Amanda said, take a walk with your dog or a walk in nature. And, you know, I wish everybody during this uncertain time a smooth sailing as you head into the fall and the uncertainty of everything. And Amanda, in closing, I'm sure you are thinking the same thoughts, or?
Absolutely. Yep. Just take care of you. Put your airbag on first, right?
Yes.
The airlines, and the rest of it will follow.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us, Amanda. Thank you. I appreciate your time today, and everyone take care.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.